Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and this is my monthly ranking for January 2019. This month literally just flew by me. I looked up and it was time to rank all of the films that I saw in theaters for January in 2019. Crazy! So this definitely was a slow month. I only ended up seeing 8 new films in theaters that were released in January of 2019. I saw a couple of repeat films that I had already seen from 2018. I saw Free Solo in preparation for the Oscars coming up, but that also was a 2018 release. So only 8 new movies made it onto my list. That only includes films released in January. You may notice I already have a couple of February reviews up on my channel. However, those will be included next month. And you'll also notice there's a lot of films on this list that I didn't review. So I had a camera problem early in the month. I was on vacation for that Comic-Con in Phoenix. So I didn't get to review quite a few of the films I saw starting in the beginning of the month. So, as always, this is just my personal list. I can only rank the films that I saw. In total, that were the following 8 movies. And this is just how much I enjoyed them, how I would rank them on a personal scale. This doesn't even necessarily reflect the quality in filmmaking or what's critically the best. It's all just my personal perception. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the countdown. Kicking us off at number 8, aka dead last, we have Replicas. Good thing Keanu Reeves is pretty secure right now with the John Wick franchise. Plus, he's getting a Toy Story character, he's being cast in all of these minor places. So good for you, Keanu Reeves, because hopefully that means we don't get many more films like Replicas. Ooh, what a slog to even sit through. This film just kind of trudges along for a good portion of the runtime. It presents a lot of interesting ideas, actually, about morality and what is morally correct, what is right. Obviously, talking about things like cloning and what makes us human. However, it kind of just contradicts most all of that in its final act with the illogical mindset of these characters. The script is absolutely dreadful and the acting is really terrible. All around, Replicas had very few redeeming qualities, and by far, actually, was my least favorite viewing experience of the month. In at number 7, I have Serenity. So Serenity has some redeeming qualities to it. Much like Replicas, we explore some interesting, deeper type of themes and messaging and ideas. There's some cool stuff to be had in here. However, we get to that twist, and it is so crazy and out there that at first you're just kind of thrown back by it. And then you start actually thinking about it and saying, this actually makes pretty much no sense. This doesn't work. What is it that you're actually trying to say? Because we've turned this into a muddled, non-coherent mess. Matthew McConaughey gives a fine performance, but Anne Hathaway I personally found to be terrible. I thought she was really bad. Jimon Hansu is so wooden. Jason Clarke gives a fun performance. But it's like the tale of two movies. The first half, you're just watching this guy trying to catch this huge tuna, and I was pretty uninterested. And then we go on this wild roller coaster ride of an insane, implausible, just crazy script. And when you shove those things together, you get a hot mess of a film. At number 6, I have Escape Room. I actually enjoyed Escape Room, at least for the first 2/3 of it. I thought it was kind of a fun little film. The escape rooms themselves were really cool, really well crafted, well designed. They made a lot of sense. The escape room premise itself makes a lot of sense and is a really awesome, actually, setting for a horror film. They tried to develop most of our characters and give them backstories and make us actually somewhat care about what happened to them or feel a little bit sad when they died. But the script in and of itself is still a weak point in this film. Our characters still have to do like cliched or convenient or stupid things to keep moving our plot along or for deaths to take place or happen. There are just a lot of conveniences in the film at large. And then we get to that third act and it all implodes upon itself. The third act is so terrible that it pretty much negated any of the fun that I had in the first two acts, honestly. The actual ending itself was just garbage, but really the whole third act was such a mess, such a disappointment, and really harpooned the whole film. At number 5, I have The Upside. This film was pretty much just fine. All the way around, everything about The Upside was perfectly fine, right down the middle of the road. Okay. Bryan Cranston gives a solid performance as we knew he would. Of course, there is lots of controversy surrounding his casting, and I don't want to speak on that too much just because, honestly, when it comes to medical conditions, I'm not sure the ability of a quadriplegic or someone who's unable to use any of their body below their neck, what the safety is behind having an actor put in a situation where someone else who is untrained is physically handling them in the way this film required Cranston's character to be handled. I don't know. So I don't want to speak on that too much. It might have been safer and more appropriate to go this route with someone who actually can move if things go wrong. I don't know. So that's where we're going to leave that. Kevin Hart did better than he usually does. I will say he played a different character for once in his career. Not one that was asked to do a whole lot more than his usual characters, but it was a much more subdued, still kind of funny character who had a lot of unlikable traits. So it was nice to see him kind of step out. Nicole Kidman is great, but she's basically wasted in the role. There are fun moments, there are heartwarming moments, in particular a scene near the end with Aretha Franklin and opera coming into play with this gliding scene was probably the highlight for me. However, the friendship just never quite got to the believable factor for me. The chemistry never quite gelled. The logic behind it all didn't quite work. The script is very paint by the numbers, go through the motions. We never crack into anything deeper. Everything stays so surface level. So at this point, you're kind of just like, go watch the original French film. At number 4, I have A Dog's Way Home. I was shocked, pleasantly shocked by this film. Those trailers, we all know, pretty much gave away the entire movie. But it's the heart that makes this film what it is, and it's hard to get that just from watching a trailer, and that's where this film's strength lies. Now, of course, we saw it even in the trailers. The CGI in this movie is not good. That mountain lion doesn't look much better in action than it did in the trailers. I'll tell you that right now. But when you're going into a family-friendly dog movie, I think that good graphics and strong CGI not really on the top of my list for priorities. So I can look past that because the heart of this film is in the right place. And they do a great job of creating this dog character that we really care about. We're really like rooting for and cheering for. We want to see her succeed. We fall in love with her. Her adventures are fun. But I was shocked at the other places this film goes. It goes dark and it actually gets pretty sad. And it stays sad for a decent little stretch there in the middle portions of this movie. And it goes to kind of heart-wrenching, sad, dark places more often than I had anticipated. And that comes through it touching on some pretty tough topics that I hadn't anticipated seeing either. Everything from homelessness to the main one that we definitely see, the pit bull ban here in my home city of Denver, Colorado, and really tackling that one head on. So we have some over-the-top villains, some meh CGI, but overall, it's a very endearing, lovely film that is sure to grab any dog lover's heart. At number 3, I have Dragon Ball Super Broly. I had a blast with this film. I thought it was so much fun. Now, I actually haven't seen, like, anything Dragon Ball related since I religiously watched Dragon Ball Z as a kid back in the 90s. I used to love Dragon Ball Z, but it's not really a property that I have made it a point to keep up on. I, of course, know of its cultural relevance still to this day. I knew about all of these characters in the film, basically, except for Broly and a couple of who I think are new characters. Actually, I'm not sure. But I knew all of our main cast here. And that's what made it fun for me as a longtime absentee to come back to the series, seeing the people still being around and getting that same energy, that same Dragon Ball feel that you hope for. The animation was really, really beautiful in this movie. There was a couple wonky kind of aspects, especially with spaceships, that looked a little bit weird. Everything else looked absolutely stunning. There's a sequence in here with just these bright colors as we go into like super duper fusion Saiyan mode. I don't know what it is, but it was awesome. That's what I do know it was. And it looked gorgeous with those color palettes. Frieza was wonderful in this movie. And I really liked the direction they took the character of Broly, honestly. Now, we didn't get much character development on any of our characters. But certainly, if you're going to see this, most likely you're somewhat a Dragon Ball fan. You know Goku, you know Vegeta, you know all of these characters who are involved. So you don't need all that much development, honestly. The action is top-notch, top-tier, super well shot, super well animated. It was over the top, a little bit cheesy, all the ridiculousness, just everything I was hoping for from a Dragon Ball film they put into this. So, up at number 3, Dragon Ball Super Broly. At number 2, I have The Kid Who Would Be King. Another film, I was not impressed with the trailers. I thought this looked really cheesy and kind of unnecessary, but to my shock, it was a whole lot of fun. It really brought me back to the good old days of live-action, family-friendly fantasy entertainment, with the Goonies and E.T., the films of that like. And while, no, it's not as good as either of those films, it's still a really fun film and better than most of the family-friendly fantasy flicks we get in this day and age. Not to mention, it's already definitely up there for renditions of King Arthur to hit the big screen, which is saying something. I thought our lead actor was wonderful. He had so much charisma and he really fit the role. Of course, Patrick Stewart and then the young kid who also played Merlin were really great, long neck and all. Rebecca Ferguson really nailed it, as well as our villain. Her movements, her appearance, her look, all that whispering, it all worked really well for me. And the film is fun. It has the laughs, it has the adventure you're looking for, it has kids really being the heroes in this family setting, which is always fun. And I really loved how they mended the King Arthur legend in with a modern day setting and made it feel like a true fantasy epic. Now, there are CGI issues in this film as well. Really, the only one is this dragon we get that I hated. However, the other CGI, like the fire knights, looked great. All the other CGI, actually, outside of that dragon, looked wonderful. The cinematography was really well done. I thought the score was great. A couple illogical moments here and there, plus some of our side characters, range from annoying to just, like, straight up unlikable pretty much through most of the film. But that didn't detract from an overall good time. Finally, at my number 1 position, we have Glass. I didn't love Glass through and through, but I did enjoy it a heck of a lot more than many people seem to be. And in the slow month of January, that's good enough to get you all the way up to number 1. I love how Glass built upon Unbreakable in particular, but then added the strong dynamics of Split into one film to give us this really satisfactory ending to the trilogy. First of all, the acting is stellar. James McAvoy gives just as strong a performance here as he did in Split. He is phenomenal. Samuel L. Jackson, I also thought was really spectacular. Bruce Willis is doing Bruce Willis, but then we have Sarah Paulson, who was great, I thought. And then Anya Taylor-Joy, well, not in it as much as maybe I'd like. She makes the most out of each and every scene she is in. I loved the setting of this like insane asylum with Sarah Paulson, where she is dealing with each of these characters, where we're really evaluating their psyche and starting to chip away at the facade of a superhero. I thought all of that was very interesting, and they executed it very well for the film. And then we get to that third act. We get to the controversial twist, and I thought it worked really well. I really enjoyed how it subverted your expectation and took us into a new direction that was unexpected, but for me personally, satisfactory. I will say, I didn't love the very end of the film. As in, like the last scene with the three side characters sitting in that like train station, I believe it was. For me, that kind of flew in the face of the message we had just literally set up in the twist, and that dampened it just a bit. I also think there were 2 or 3 too many endings. Like the film kept feeling like it was coming to a close, and then it was like, oh, just kidding, we keep going. Oh, okay, no, we're still going. And that disappointment was confounded with the fact that I thought we got the worst of the endings with that final scene. But the third act overall, I really enjoyed. It took a turn that really worked for me. It worked for me in kind of a real world application, and I liked it. So I'm definitely on the side that thinks the twist worked. I just had a good time with the film at large. I think M. Night Shyamalan definitely. I enjoyed the care and the craft that M. Night Shyamalan took with completing this trilogy and kind of bringing his baby on home. So that's it. Glass is my favorite film of January 2019. What did you think of my ranking? Anything shock you there? But more importantly, how would you rank the films you saw in the month of January? Let me know either in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up on Twitter. And if you liked this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you are always up to date on our latest videos. I love you all so much for your support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!